Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're going to literally open up the hacker's playbook and decode the 20 most common cyber attacks out there. So, if you've ever sat back and wondered how these threat actors actually operate behind the scenes, how they manage to breach these massive billion-dollar companies, well, you're absolutely in the right place. We're going to break down their tactics, step by step, right here, right now.
But hey, before we look at exactly how they attack, let's talk about who they're targeting. Now, obviously, anyone can be a target, right? But these 5 sectors, government, healthcare, manufacturing, finance, and energy, they hold the mother load. This is the data and infrastructure attackers prize the absolute most. We're talking about everything from super sensitive patient records and direct cash assets all the way up to national power grids and these incredibly complex supply chains.
Okay, let's dive into this. We've got a really solid structured approach today. We're going to start with hacking the human element, then we'll move into brute force and extortion, explore exploiting networks and code, and finally, wrap things up with securing your digital frontline. So, Section 1, Hacking the Human Element, Inside Threats and Phishing. You see, the easiest way through a locked door is usually just convincing someone to open it for you, right? That's why phishing has evolved into these 3 really distinct tiers. At the top, you've got your standard phishing. This is where attackers basically cast a massive net. They use emails from seemingly trusted sources as bait, just hoping to trick you into downloading malware. But then it gets sneakier and evolves into spear phishing in that middle tier. This is highly targeted. The attacker actually researches you personally, and they might even spoof an email to look exactly like it's coming from a trusted friend. And finally, down at the bottom, we have whale phishing. This one goes after the literal big fish, the C-suite. They are explicitly targeting the folks who hold the highly valuable proprietary information. But what happens when the threat isn't an outsider at all? Why are insider threats uniquely dangerous? Well, the scary truth is sometimes the most dangerous actors are already inside the building. Whether they're straight up malicious or maybe just a bit negligent, these employees already have access to sensitive systems. Plus, they possess this in-depth working understanding of your security architecture, and that makes them an incredibly potent threat right from within. So, how do we actually shut the door on this? First off, always verify your reply to and return path headers and emails, just to make sure the domains actually match up. Second, you've got to implement multi-factor authentication, MFA, as a baseline defense. That way, a stolen password by itself just isn't enough to get them in. And third, use a least privileged access model. This simply restricts access so employees can only reach the specific systems they absolutely literally need to do their jobs, nothing more. Moving right along to Section 2, brute force and extortion. Overloading systems. Now, in this playbook, attackers drop the subtlety completely. Unlike other attacks that are meant to quietly steal data, denial of service attacks just want to shut you down. A standard DOS attack just floods a target site with illegitimate requests until the whole thing crashes. A DDoS, or distributed denial of service attack, does the exact same thing, but it uses this vast, sprawling array of malware-infected host machines to completely drain your resources. The objective here is pure interruption, kind of like that massive attack that hit Amazon Web Services back in February 2020. Then we've got brute force and dictionary password attacks. This relies on these automated bots that just tirelessly guess login credentials. They might use a dictionary attack, rapidly cycling through common dictionary phrases, or they'll just use pure brute force, relentlessly combining your personal info, stuff like birthdays, pet names, hobbies, pulled right from your public social media. So, yeah, using your dog's name as a password, definitely a bad idea. They'll just keep hammering away until they finally crack the code. Now, I think the most genuinely terrifying part of ransomware is its patience. Attackers don't just breach a system and strike immediately. No, first, they exploit a vulnerability to get in. Second, they spread silently. We're talking days or even weeks, just quietly using auto-run files or infected USB drives to hop across multiple computers on the network. Then, finally, step 3 hits. They execute simultaneous encryption. They literally hold the entire system hostage all at once until a ransom is paid. Okay, but to fight off these brute force and extortion tactics, we need some really robust overload defenses. Implementing strict lockout policies will automatically freeze an account after a few failed login attempts, which stops those brute forcing bots right in their tracks. You're also going to want AI-driven next-generation firewalls that actually perform deep data packet inspections to catch any hidden ransomware. And for those massive DDoS attacks, you need resilient network architectures like SD-WAN, which can intelligently reroute that heavy, unexpected traffic to keep your network alive and breathing. All right, let's get a bit more technical. Section 3, exploiting networks, code-level attacks. Here is where attackers try to sneak through the digital vents. Two of the sneakiest methods they use rely entirely on deception. Trojan horses, as the name implies, literally borrow from the ancient Greek myth of Troy. Attackers hide their malware inside seemingly innocent software, just waiting for you to willingly welcome it in. On the flip side, drive-by attacks don't even require you to click or download a single thing. You can get infected simply by driving by and visiting an insecure, compromised website. It's wild. Then we have man-in-the-middle attacks, and there are basically two ways these go down. Active eavesdropping means the hacker actually goes in and inserts software right into the network traffic path to actively collect data. Passive eavesdropping, though? That means they're just sitting there, quietly listening to unencrypted traffic as it passes by. In both of these cases, bad actors are spying on your seemingly private interactions just to intercept things like passwords and credit card numbers. When it comes to attacking the web itself, hackers usually target three main vulnerabilities. First up is SQL injection, which is where attackers inject malicious commands to steal or modify data directly from a server's backend database. Next is cross-site scripting, or XSS. This one hijacks clickable content, so the second a user clicks on it, a malicious script runs in the background. And finally, URL interpretation. This is where attackers literally just guess back-end syntax, like simply typing /admin at the very end of a web address, trying to steal control of the entire site. Attackers also absolutely love to manipulate the internet's traffic cops. Take DNS spoofing, for example. They'll alter DNS records to forcefully route you to a fake spoofed website just to steal your info. Then there's session hijacking, where they manage to steal your trusted IP session partway through, completely tricking the server into talking to them instead of you. And let's not forget cross-site request forgery, or CSRF, which fools victims into executing background actions like changing login credentials without them ever even realizing it happened. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the number 23. It represents a fascinating mathematical paradox called the birthday attack. It's based on this crazy probability that in a room of just 23 people, there is a greater than 50% chance that two of them share the exact same birthday. Mind-blowing, right? Well, attackers apply this exact same logic to digital hash algorithms, the digital signatures we use for verifying messages. It actually proves that these algorithms aren't nearly as uniquely secure as we tend to think, which allows attackers to match hashes and swap out authentic messages with their own malicious ones. But hey, don't worry, we can absolutely break the attacker's code here. To defeat those sneaky birthday attacks, we simply use longer hashes. Every single extra digit massively decreases their odds of finding a match. To stop that man-in-the-middle eavesdropping, you should always use VPNs and strong encryption, so your traffic is entirely unreadable to anyone listening in. And for your web apps, deploy anti-CSRF tokens to validate user requests and meticulously sanitize every bit of data input to block out those malicious SQL and XSS scripts. And that brings us to Section 4, securing frontlines, defense strategies. I really want to pause on this quote from the source material for a second. Sometimes the most dangerous actors come from within an organization. Despite all the incredibly terrifying external threats we just looked at, a truly robust defense absolutely must account for those internal vulnerabilities. That means rigorously utilizing that least privileged model we talked about earlier, along with multi-factor authentication, ensuring that internal accounts can't easily be weaponized against your own company. So pulling it all together, here is your definitive action plan. Step 1. Keep all your DNS servers and software consistently updated. You have to patch out those vulnerabilities that attackers rely on. Step 2. Deploy next-generation firewalls and web filtering to catch Trojans, ransomware, and those drive-by attacks way before they ever enter your network. And Step 3. Educate your users. A fully trained staff that actually knows how to spot social engineering and spear phishing, that is without a doubt your absolute strongest shield. Which brings us to our final question. Knowing the threat actor's playbook inside and out now, is your digital frontline an easy target or an impenetrable fortress? The tactics are out there for sure, but as we've covered today, so are the defenses. It's really up to you to put them into action. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and stay secure out there.